Picture this. While most men are drowning in endless arguments about whose turn it is to take out the trash, burning through their bank accounts on anniversary dinners they can't afford, and walking on eggshells in their own homes, there's a man who wakes up every single morning in complete silence, spends his money however he wants, and answers to absolutely no one. This isn't some fantasy. This was Arthur Schopenhauer, one of history's greatest philosophers, and he lived like absolute royalty while his married friends were miserable, broke, and trapped. And before you click away thinking this is just another philosopher talking nonsense, understand this. Schopenhauer saw something that most men refuse to see until it's too late. He cracked a code that society desperately tries to hide from you, and what he discovered will completely shatter everything you've been told about what it means to be successful as a man. Every single day, millions of men wake up and follow the same script. Meet a woman, fall in love, get married, have kids, work yourself into an early grave to pay for it all, and then wonder where your life went. They call this success. They call this being a real man. But Schopenhauer looked at this path and said absolutely not. And here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. He wasn't lonely, he wasn't miserable, he wasn't some bitter hermit hiding from the world. This man lived with more freedom, more wealth, more genuine peace than any of the married men around him could ever dream of. While they were chained to obligations they resented and relationships that drained them, Schopenhauer was living exactly how he wanted, every single day, without compromise, without guilt, without anyone telling him what to do. You need to hear this because right now, you're being sold a lie. Society has convinced you that your value as a man depends on your relationship status, that you're somehow incomplete without a woman by your side, that marriage is the ultimate goal you should be working toward. But Schopenhauer understood something profound. Marriage isn't designed for your happiness. It's designed for society's stability. It's a system that benefits everyone except the man who enters it. And the proof is everywhere if you're willing to look. The men around you who got married, are they genuinely happy? Are they living with freedom and joy? Or are they exhausted, financially stressed, and quietly wondering how they ended up here? Schopenhauer saw this pattern, and he made a choice that saved his entire life. He chose himself, not in a selfish way, but in a way that honored his own existence, his own potential, his own peace. And this decision allowed him to create a life that most men only fantasize about. He had time to think, time to write, time to develop ideas that would influence millions of people for centuries. He had financial freedom because he wasn't supporting anyone else's lifestyle or dreams. He had mental clarity because he wasn't navigating endless relationship drama and emotional manipulation. He had genuine peace because his home was his sanctuary, not a battlefield. This wasn't luck. This was a deliberate choice based on a deep understanding of human nature, and especially the nature of relationships between men and women. Schopenhauer studied this topic more honestly than almost anyone in history, and what he discovered was simultaneously liberating and terrifying. He realized that romantic love, the thing that poets celebrate and movies glorify, is actually nature's trick to get you to reproduce. It's a biological con game that floods your brain with chemicals, makes you think you found your soulmate, and then disappears right around the time you've signed the marriage contract. And once that chemical high fades, you're left with reality, the reality of incompatible personalities, conflicting goals, financial stress, and the slow death of your individual identity. Schopenhauer watched this happen to men over and over again, and he refused to be another casualty. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds extreme. This sounds like giving up on love, on connection, on everything that makes life worth living. But that's exactly the trap. Society has programmed you to believe that marriage and romantic relationships are the only path to connection and meaning. Schopenhauer discovered that this is completely false. He had deep friendships, intellectual conversations that stimulated his mind, creative work that gave him purpose, and personal freedom that allowed him to explore life on his own terms. He wasn't missing out on anything. The married men around him were the ones missing out on themselves. Here's what society won't tell you. Marriage is a sacrifice. It requires you to give up significant parts of yourself, your time, your money, your freedom, your peace of mind. And in exchange for this sacrifice, you're promised happiness, companionship, and fulfillment. But Schopenhauer recognized that this promise is rarely delivered. Most marriages don't produce the happiness they advertise. Instead, they produce obligation, resentment, and quiet desperation. The man who enters marriage thinking it will complete him usually discovers that it actually diminishes him. His dreams get smaller, his bank account gets emptier, his spirit gets crushed under the weight of expectations he can never fully meet. And the worst part? He can't even talk about it. Society has created this rule that men aren't allowed to express dissatisfaction with marriage or relationships. If you do, you're labeled as immature, commitment-phobic, or broken. So men suffer in silence, pretending everything is fine while internally dying a little more each day. Schopenhauer refused this fate, and his life proved that there's another way. So what city are you watching this from right now? Drop it in the comments because I want to know where in the world men are finally waking up to these truths. The beautiful thing about Schopenhauer's approach is that it wasn't based on hatred or bitterness toward women. He didn't avoid marriage because he disliked women. He avoided it because he understood the game, and he understood that the game is rigged against men. Think about the basic structure of marriage. A man is expected to be the primary provider, to sacrifice his comfort, and sometimes his health to ensure financial stability for his family. He's expected to be emotionally available and supportive, even when he's exhausted from work. He's expected to be decisive and lead, but also to compromise and consider everyone else's feelings above his own. He's expected to maintain attraction and romance even as his wife's appearance and attitude change over the years. And what does he get in return? The possibility of companionship, which can be withdrawn at any moment. The possibility of regular intimacy, which statistically declines dramatically after marriage. The possibility of respect, which often transforms into contempt as familiarity breeds dissatisfaction. And if the marriage fails, which statistically happens about half the time, the man loses his children, his house, his money, and sometimes his reputation. This isn't an equal partnership. This is a contract where one side assumes almost all the risk, and the other side holds almost all the power. Schopenhauer looked at this arrangement and said, "No, thank you." He valued his autonomy too much to hand it over to someone else, no matter how beautiful she was, or how strong the chemical attraction felt in the moment. And this is where his philosophy gets really interesting, because he didn't just avoid marriage out of fear or cynicism. He avoided it because he had a higher purpose. Schopenhauer believed that the philosophical life, the life of contemplation, creativity, and intellectual development, required freedom from domestic obligations. He looked at the great thinkers and artists throughout history and noticed a pattern. Many of them were unmarried or had troubled marriages, precisely because their work required a level of focus and dedication that family life makes nearly impossible. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot fully devote yourself to discovering truth and creating meaningful work while also managing the endless demands of a spouse and children. Something has to give, and usually what gives is your potential, your dreams, the person you could have become. Schopenhauer wasn't willing to make that trade, and his decision allowed him to produce philosophical work that's still studied and debated today. Almost 2 centuries after his death, his ideas about the will, about suffering, about the nature of existence, these didn't come from a man who was distracted by domestic drama and financial stress. They came from a man who had the mental space and freedom to think deeply about life's biggest questions. This is what modern men are missing. They're so busy trying to keep their relationships alive and their partners happy that they have no energy left for themselves, for their own growth, for their own potential. They've traded their future for the illusion of present security, and that trade is almost never worth it. Schopenhauer understood that a man's greatest asset is his time and attention. Once you give these away, you can never get them back. And marriage demands both in quantities that leave almost nothing for yourself. Most men don't realize this until they're years into a marriage, sitting in a house they're paying for, but doesn't feel like theirs, next to a woman who's become a stranger, wondering where the passion went, where the excitement went, where they went. Schopenhauer avoided this trap entirely, and the result was a life rich with meaning, purpose and genuine satisfaction. Now let's talk about the financial aspect, because this is where Schopenhauer's decision really paid off in ways that most men never consider. Marriage is expensive, and I don't just mean the wedding, though that's often an absurd waste of money that sets the tone for the financial disaster to come. I'm talking about the ongoing cost of maintaining a household that meets someone else's standards, supporting lifestyle expectations that keep increasing, paying for children's endless needs and wants, and then potentially losing half of everything you've built if the relationship ends. Schopenhauer kept every penny he earned. He invested it, grew it, and used it to fund a life of complete independence. He didn't need to ask permission to buy something he wanted. He didn't need to justify his spending decisions to anyone. He didn't live in fear of divorce courts taking his wealth and giving it to someone else. His money was his, and this financial freedom gave him options that married men simply don't have. He could travel when he wanted, live where he wanted, pursue interests that cost money without guilt or negotiation. This wasn't greed. This was self-preservation and smart resource management. Think about the average married man's financial situation. He works hard, brings home money, and then watches it disappear into a bottomless pit of expenses that he often doesn't even agree with. New furniture that the old furniture was fine. Expensive vacations to places he doesn't want to go. Gifts for people he doesn't particularly like. Endless upgrades and renovations to a house that was perfectly functional before. And he can't say no because that would create conflict. And conflict with a wife is exhausting and often not worth the fight. So he just pays and pays and pays, watching his bank account drain while his resentment builds. Schopenhauer looked at this dynamic and recognized it for what it is: financial slavery dressed up as partnership. He refused to participate, and his bank account thanked him for it. But here's what's even more important than the money itself: the psychological freedom that comes with financial independence. When you're not financially tied to someone else, you have leverage in every aspect of your life. You can walk away from situations that don't serve you. You can take risks on opportunities that excite you. You can say no without fear of consequences. This leverage is what allows a man to live on his own terms, and it's exactly what marriage takes away. The moment you combine finances with a spouse, you've surrendered your financial autonomy, and with it goes a huge portion of your overall freedom. Schopenhauer maintained this autonomy throughout his entire life, and it showed in everything he did. He wasn't making decisions based on fear or obligation. He was making decisions based on what genuinely made sense for his life and his goals. This is the kind of clarity that married men rarely experience. They're too busy navigating complicated dynamics where their own preferences come last, if they're considered at all. Now let's address the elephant in the room: loneliness. This is the weapon that society uses to scare men into relationships they shouldn't enter. You'll die alone, they say. You'll have no one to take care of you when you're old. You'll miss out on the companionship that makes life worth living. Schopenhauer heard all of this, and he called it what it is: manipulation based on fear. First of all, being alone and being lonely are completely different things. Schopenhauer was alone by choice, but he was never lonely. He had friends, he had intellectual colleagues, he had people he could engage with when he wanted human interaction. But he also had solitude, which he valued more than most people can understand. Solitude is where creativity happens, where deep thinking occurs, where you actually get to know yourself rather than just reacting to other people's needs and expectations. Married men almost never experience true solitude. Their homes are filled with noise and demands and other people's emotions. They're never truly alone, which means they're never truly free to just exist without performing some role or meeting some expectation. Schopenhauer recognized that solitude was essential for his work and his peace of mind, and he structured his life to protect it. This wasn't antisocial behavior. This was a man who understood his own needs and honored them. Secondly, the idea that marriage protects you from dying alone is statistically false and practically naive. Plenty of married people die alone because their spouse died first, or because they're in a nursing home where their family never visits. Marriage doesn't guarantee companionship in old age. It just guarantees that you'll spend your young and middle years sacrificing for someone else. Schopenhauer would rather take his chances with aging alone then definitely sacrifice his best years to a system that might not even deliver on its promises. And here's something that nobody talks about. The quality of companionship matters more than its mere existence. Being married to someone you've grown to resent or someone who resents you is far lonelier than being physically alone. At least when you're alone, you're not constantly reminded of failed expectations and broken promises. At least when you're alone, you're not living with someone who's become a stranger or even an enemy. Schopenhauer understood that bad companionship is worse than no companionship, and marriage frequently produces exactly that kind of toxic proximity. Two people who once loved each other forced to coexist in mounting disappointment and unspoken hostility. That's not connection. That's torture. So when someone tells you that you need to get married to avoid loneliness, remember Schopenhauer sitting in his peaceful home, reading books that stimulated his mind, writing ideas that would outlive him by centuries, enjoying meals exactly how he liked them, sleeping without someone complaining about his snoring, waking up to silence and possibility rather than demands and obligations. Which life sounds lonelier? The answer is obvious once you're honest with yourself. Let's talk about intimacy, because this is another area where society lies to men. They tell you that marriage is the path to regular, satisfying intimacy with a woman you love. The reality is that intimacy typically declines after marriage, sometimes dramatically. Study after study confirms this. Couples have less physical intimacy after marriage than before, and it continues to decrease over time. There are many reasons for this. Familiarity breeds complacency. The stress of daily life kills desire. Physical changes reduce attraction. Resentment from unresolved conflicts builds walls between partners. The result is that many married men find themselves in situations where they're legally and morally bound to one woman, who's increasingly uninterested in physical connection. They can't pursue intimacy elsewhere without being branded as cheaters and losing everything in a divorce. They're trapped in a sexless or low-intimacy situation with no acceptable way out. Schopenhauer avoided this trap entirely. He wasn't bound to any one woman, which meant he maintained his freedom to pursue connection on his own terms. And here's the crucial point. He didn't need marriage to experience intimacy. The idea that you can only have meaningful physical connection within the confines of marriage is a social construct designed to control behavior, not a natural law. Schopenhauer recognized this and lived accordingly. He enjoyed female company when he wanted it, on his terms, without the permanent obligations that destroy attraction and desire over time. This approach kept him in a position of strength rather than dependency. He never needed any particular woman, which paradoxically made him more attractive and more able to enjoy genuine connection without the desperation and neediness that plagues married men who've surrendered their options. The psychological impact of this cannot be overstated. When a man knows he has options, when he knows he can walk away from any situation that doesn't serve him, his entire energy changes. He becomes more confident, more decisive, more attractive. But when a man is locked into marriage, especially an unhappy one, he loses this edge. He becomes tentative, uncertain, afraid to rock the boat because the consequences of relationship failure are catastrophic. Schopenhauer maintained his psychological strength throughout his life because he never put himself in a position where he needed someone else's approval to be okay. This is true power, and it's exactly what marriage takes away from men. Now let's examine the concept of legacy, because this is where Schopenhauer's choice becomes undeniable in its wisdom. Most men are told that their legacy is their children, that the only way to live on after death is through biological reproduction. But Schopenhauer understood that there are different kinds of legacy, and some are far more powerful than simply passing on your DNA. His legacy is his ideas, his writings, his philosophical contributions that have influenced countless people across multiple generations. How many men can say that their children will impact the world the way Schopenhauer's work has? Very few. Most people's children live ordinary lives, and that's fine. But it exposes the lie that children are the ultimate legacy. Schopenhauer created something that will exist long after his bloodline has disappeared, and he was able to create it precisely because he didn't have the distractions and obligations of family life. He had time to think, time to write, time to refine his ideas into something truly valuable. Married men with children rarely have this luxury. Their time is consumed by immediate needs and practical concerns. They're helping with homework instead of writing books. They're attending soccer games instead of developing theories. They're working overtime to pay bills instead of pursuing creative projects. And at the end of their lives, what do they have to show for it? Some nice family photos and the hope that their kids turned out okay. That's not nothing, but it's also not the profound impact that someone like Schopenhauer achieved. This isn't to say that having children is wrong, or that family life has no value. It's to say that society lies when it tells you this is the only path to meaning and legacy. Schopenhauer proved that there are other ways to leave your mark on the world, ways that might actually create more lasting value than biological reproduction. And he was able to pursue this path because he made the difficult choice to prioritize his potential over social expectations. How many brilliant minds have been lost to history because they were buried under domestic obligations? How many men could have created something extraordinary if they hadn't spent their best years and energy just trying to keep their families afloat? Schopenhauer refused to be one of those lost potentials, and the world is richer for his decision. Let's talk about happiness, because ultimately, that's what this comes down to. Schopenhauer understood that happiness doesn't come from external circumstances like relationship status. It comes from internal factors: peace of mind, freedom to pursue your interests, alignment between your values and your actions, absence of chronic stress and conflict. Marriage often works directly against these factors. It creates ongoing stress through financial pressure and relationship dynamics. It restricts freedom through obligation and expectation. It forces compromise that can misalign your life with your true values. Schopenhauer's life avoided all of this. He structured his days exactly how he wanted. He woke up when his body told him to, not when an alarm clock demanded it for someone else's schedule. He ate what he wanted when he wanted. He spent his time on activities that genuinely interested him rather than on obligations he resented. He went to bed with a clear conscience and a peaceful mind, not lying awake worrying about relationship problems or financial strain. This is what actual happiness looks like, and it's rarely found in the average marriage. Most married men are running on a hamster wheel of obligation, constantly doing things they don't want to do, for people who don't fully appreciate it, while slowly losing themselves in the process. They tell themselves they're happy, because admitting otherwise would mean confronting the fact that they've built their entire adult life on a foundation that doesn't actually serve them. Schopenhauer had the courage to be honest about what creates genuine well-being, and he had the strength to organize his life accordingly, regardless of social pressure. This is the example that modern men desperately need. The world is full of people telling you what you should want, what you should value, what you should sacrifice yourself for. But very few people are encouraging you to think critically about whether these shoulds actually lead to the life you want to live. Schopenhauer thought critically, and his conclusions led him to a path that most people considered strange or wrong. But he didn't care about other people's opinions. He cared about living a life that was true to his own nature and values. This authenticity is rare and valuable, and it's exactly what gets destroyed when you conform to social expectations about marriage and family. You become a performer playing a role rather than a person living genuinely. Schopenhauer refused this fate, and he lived and died on his own terms. His last years weren't spent in regret about missed opportunities for marriage and children. They were spent in the satisfaction of a life well lived according to his own standards. He had peace, he had accomplishment. He had the knowledge that he'd remain true to himself despite enormous pressure to conform. How many married men can say the same? How many reach old age and realize they spent their entire lives trying to make other people happy while neglecting their own well-being and potential? Schopenhauer's example shows us that there's another way, a way that requires courage and wisdom, but that ultimately delivers the freedom and peace that every man craves but few achieve. The question isn't whether you can live like Schopenhauer. The question is whether you have the strength to examine your life honestly and make choices that serve your actual interests rather than society's expectations. Most men don't. They follow the script, get married, have kids, work until they die, and never question whether this path was really right for them. Schopenhauer questioned everything, and his questions led him to a life of remarkable freedom and achievement. His secret wasn't complicated. He valued his own peace and potential more than social approval, and he structured his entire life around protecting these priorities. This meant saying no to marriage, yes to solitude, yes to his work, yes to financial independence, yes to living exactly how he wanted without apology or explanation. The result was a life that most men would envy if they were honest about what they truly want versus what they've been taught to want. Right now, watching this video, you're at a crossroads. You can dismiss everything you've heard here. Tell yourself that Schopenhauer was just a bitter old philosopher who didn't understand real love, and continue down the path that society has laid out for you. Or you can let his example crack open your mind to possibilities you haven't considered, to questions you've been afraid to ask, to a different vision of what a successful life might look like. The men who are really paying attention right now, who feel something resonating in what I'm saying, I want to hear from you. Drop this exact phrase in the comments. I choose my freedom over their approval. This isn't just a comment. It's a declaration that you're willing to think for yourself about what you want your life to look like. And when you drop that comment, hit the subscribe button, because you're exactly the kind of person who needs to hear the truths we're sharing on this channel. We're not here to tell you what society wants you to hear. We're here to share the wisdom that can actually change your life, the perspectives that mainstream culture tries to hide from you because they threaten the system that benefits from your conformity. Every video on this channel is designed to wake you up to possibilities and truths that most people never discover. And when you smash that like button, you're telling the algorithm to show this message to more men who need to hear it. Men who are questioning the path they're on. Men who are ready for something different. Your engagement literally helps save other men from lives of quiet desperation. In our next video, we're going to explore something that will shake your understanding of relationships even further. Everything you think you know about what women actually want versus what they say they want is about to be exposed. And once you see it, you'll never look at dating and relationships the same way again. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it, because this information has the power to completely transform how you navigate every interaction with women from this day forward. The truth is waiting for you, and those who discover it first have an advantage that's almost unfair.